Okay, it's May 23rd and doing a little walkthrough of garden stuff. This is our lettuce green stock, greens, and some herbs at the top now. And some of these will feed us for a couple more weeks, but I've got starts beginning inside to put in here, some heat tolerant varieties to try this year. I keep a very wild, messy garden, I guess. But I trying to learn a lot, so I have a lot of things going on. This is one type of bean I'm trying this year. Got lemon balm and comfrey and chives over here. There's an experimental in-ground garden in the corner there. Well, we made a little soil station back here. It's a mess right now. It's been a lot of soil mixing. We mix our own, essentially our own potting mix, because I do a lot of container gardening and raised bed stuff, and it's much cheaper to mix our own with the compost we make. And we've been using the bokashi compost system since the fall. Those two plastic bins over there, that's where we put the soil and then the fermented bokashi scraps from the composting bucket we keep inside. It's an amazing process, actually, and then within a few weeks the soil is ready to be put in ground or mixed in with what we're mixing up. But we turned this little area down here into another garden space. Gets full afternoon sun with just a little bit of shade from this tree right up here, but we can trim those if we need to. So I'm trying peppers in the more shaded spot, and then also in the bed here within the garlic and onions there are some pepper plants that are just starting to grow. It's going well so far. There's actually more of a pest problem in this bed than there is in the pots, the potted peppers, but they're hanging in there. So I don't know if I would do it as dense as I did this year, but that's part of the experiment this year. Is I'm doing a lot of dense planting and relay planting, I think is what it is. So by the time the garlic comes out, the peppers will be getting a little bit bigger, and so then they'll have more space that's their own. These are just a couple recycled bins that I use for pots. My tomatillas this year are very happy. You need 2 tomatillos, I learned last year. I had another extra tomato over here I'm trying in ground with some borage next to it. Hopefully those will flower soon. My cabbages are hanging on despite the heavy cabbage worm issue this year, and I really should have netted the baby plants to begin with. And then, this is a little thing I've done with 2 greenstalk tiers, because I have 2 greenstalks, and honestly they're just a little bit tall for me when all the tiers are up there. So I decided to try 2 this year as little planters and keep the actual towers a little bit shorter. So I'm trying beans in this one. The little makeshift trellis, they can grow all the way up. And then a couple acorn squashes over here. Once the cabbages move, they'll be able to sprawl out in this spot. So this is kind of the main garden, I guess, up here. Down here we have potted tomatoes in front of the porch. I've grown them in this area for several years now, and they really do quite well, even with the shade we get from this little black walnut here. I think actually the shade helps them when it gets really, really hot in the summer here. And then this is our new raised bed. It's twice the size of the one we had before, and I'm loving it. And I'm doing this dense planting in here too with that kind of relay planting idea. So on the right, I have some of my colder weather vegetables, carrots and beets, that are just coming into harvesting, and then I have a bunch of tomatoes. I have indeterminates on the string trellises there. So they'll be pruned pretty heavily. I did that last year and it worked beautifully for paste tomatoes and indeterminates. And then in the other side here on the right, I have quite a few determinate tomatoes for paste making as well. The San Marzanos ended up being my favorite last year, but I do have a couple Romas in there too. I also have some broccoli that's finishing up here and in the back garden. A couple eggplants that are getting really heavily affected by the flea beetles again this year. So I've started another round inside. Maybe they'll grow fast enough for a harvest and past the point where flea beetles are really a problem. This is the bean trellis that we put in last year. It did really well. And then in the front this year I have my first celery plants. And they're really coming to life here in the last couple weeks. So happy with that. So here's the other 4x4 raised bed. Behind some grow bags there and some weeds and yarrow. I have a couple bags of leeks and carrots. So again, colder weather growing crops that are going to be harvested sooner than some of the other stuff. My peas are in there. We've got some more weeks with those probably. but they've started to give us some lovely peas. And then this is a nice tall marigold right here. But back in there, I've started my pickling cucumbers. So they're tucked in there. The peas will come down, the carrots and leeks will be moved, and the cucumbers will be here. And I think I'm going to also try some edamame in here this year, back where the peas are. That's also a big thing of cilantro there, which I'm allowing to go to seed for pollinators. And those white flowers up top there, if you can see that, that's radishes that I've allowed to go to seed, partially because they're a trap crop for flea beetles, and also to attract some of the pollinators in as my flowers are just getting started. We've had some real volunteer strawberries over here. They came out of the kiddie pool planter into the ground, and we've had strawberries every day to enjoy. That's been so cool. Didn't know if they would do well. And I also put some onions in here this year, and those have helped keep the pests out. This is also just some more indeterminates in barrels. German green variety of indeterminate. You eat it as a green tomato, and it's so sweet and delicious and big. Put in some little makeshift beds over here. They get a little more shade, but then the nice afternoon sun will hit these. So I put in some squash there. It's actually winter squash, acorn and spaghetti. And they have a long growing season, and I'm hoping to try growing them up along the wall of the house a little bit. And then I've got some herbs down there as well that I just started in that spot. It'll be a good spot for them to spread. So, we rent our home, but we're still able to do a really pretty good amount of things here. Everything that we have done mostly can be reverted back to what it was like when we moved in. There's Cora going for a bee. And so we put some rocks along this side because there's lizards and things there, and Cora likes to try to dig for them with some herbs. And then I'm also trying one celery in a grow bag over here. So he's a little smaller than the one that's over in the more morning sun area, but I'm just curious how they compare. So here's the other green stalk, and this is an experimental green stalk. I like to rotate things in this. I've got some micro tomatoes and herbs. I'm doing a row of bush beans this year. I'm trying a couple small hot peppers, serranos and jalapeno, and see how they do. And then some greens and marigolds and such. This needs watered right now, but this stuff is lemon sorrel. It is delicious. It's a soft green with just a slight mild lemony tang to it. It's so good in salads. And then a bunch of herbs here. So chamomile and thyme, my rosemary that I took inside over the winter and brought back out. It's quite happy now. Lavender, growing Thai basil this year, sage. And then I'm trying this plant in a couple spots too. It's called a cucamelon. And then there's not too much happening in this little greenhouse at the moment. I've finally planted most of the plants, or given away the extras or sold them. But I do have my rooting sweet potato slips out here in jars today. I'll either plant them tonight or tomorrow. I believe they're doing quite well, and I'm excited to get them planted. Started these from store-bought sweet potatoes, and it was so easy, and they just are so much better than the slips that I spent 4 times as much on last year. So I will be doing that again. I consider this the back of the house. We park back here. It's off the main road that the front of our house faces. And it's kind of a wild little area. It used to have a huge tree that fell one year. I made a painting about that because I loved that tree. It was an elder. Over the last couple years have kind of played with some stuff in it. We even have this prickly pear cactus here. We just took a small cutting a few years ago, and it's just done amazing. We have done really nothing for it except a little sand around it last year. Mullein. We like to leave those. Good medicine. There's a little bed we built around the stump, and the poppies from last year seeded outside of the bed, and I don't have the heart to pull them until they're done blooming. So we've just kind of let it overflow in this gorgeous little cascade of flowers for now. And the yarrow and the calendula just came back full force this year from plantings last year. So that was just awesome. The calendula has just been so cool. And these are, again, the potato bags. They're doing great. Those are the red potatoes in the back, the real taller ones. And then I've been doing some little experiments with growing lettuce back here because it's afternoon shade back here. Now one is bolting there clearly. Got some little moth on here. I want to get him off. And you can see the cabbage moths have been crazy this year. They're so darn pretty, but so destructive to a garden. These front potatoes got black rot, some of the plants, not all of them. So we separated the bags, cut those out, but the rest of them seem to be perking back up, and I'm hopeful that we'll still get some good Yukon Gold potatoes out of that. And then we've got some cucumbers started here, zucchini and summer squash, and then I just set up my bags to plant sweet potatoes last night. And around here is where I've grown some cabbage. Here and here. Gets afternoon shade. The one in the full sun in the front's actually done better for me, even on the really hot weeks. But for the hot weather, I'm going to be growing some beans. I have this greenhouse that I've just removed the plastic from. I'm going to use that as a trellis, see how that does. Might put some string on it too. And I actually have a cauliflower, which seems way slower than the broccoli. But I have two that are heading now, one up front and then this one here. So I'm hopeful it'll give me a decent head before the heat gets unbearable.